Hey guys, it's Hero553. Welcome back to another Beyblade X unboxing and review. Today we're going to be checking out the latest battle set from Hasbro, that being the Sneak Attack battle set. Now going over the box quickly, as you can see it has a very nice illustration of the stadium set in action along with the names of the two bays we get. On this side it goes over the whole point system of Beyblade X. On the other side it goes into a few details of how the stadium works. And then on the back of the box, it gives you a full breakdown of everything you get in the stadium set. So the two bays we get, we have Kata Shinobi. So we have the Kata Shinobi Ratchet Integrated Blade along with low flat. It does also state it has lower blade rotates. Really be curious to see how that works. The other blade we get is Rampart Aegis. So we have the Rampart Aegis blade itself. And then the bit is Gear Ball. Now it also talks about its ability, which is stabilizing battle shield. So let's now get into this battle set. So here is everything you get in this stadium set. So of course we have the Drop Attack Stadium itself along with its shroud. We have the clips for the shroud itself. We have two proto launchers along with their ripcords, the two bays we get. And of course we do have an instruction sheet explaining how to put the stadium together and how to play. Pretty self-explanatory, but let's now take a deep dive into everything we get here. Let's start off with really the namesake of the battle set, the Sneak Attack. So it is a green stadium with a clear shroud, and you also do have the four black clips as well. Now size wise, it is the same size as the Hasbro Extreme and Drop Attack battle sets we have gotten in the past, and it is a bit smaller than a standard TT/tournament stadium. But really the main selling point of the Sneak Attack is, well, its Sneak Attack gimmick. So the Extreme Exit Pocket Zone is basically now spring-loaded and doesn't have any teeth. So when you're setting this up to play, you push it down, and then when a bay hits the Extreme line, there's a little switch on the back of the rail, and if it's hit hard enough, it will actually pop the exit pockets up, and in turn, when a bay hits it, it will perform a sneak attack in a way. And it doesn't always trigger, which is pretty cool, so some bays could actually spin indefinitely around the extreme line. Now, the over pockets are also right next to the extreme area as well, so a little bit difference there. And another note, the extreme rail is molded into the stadium, it's not separate. So if you are using the stadium quite heavily, you may see a little bit more wear and tear compared to, say, a normal extreme rail. But other than that, the stadium is pretty fun. Like, I wouldn't say it's as fun compared to the Hasbro Extreme and even the Drop Attack in some ways, but it's a gimmick that works pretty well and it doesn't require any batteries or anything. It's pretty easy to work with. But apart from that, it's a pretty standard stadium. But let's now focus really on what I think are the main attraction of this battle set. And here are the two bays that we get in this battle set, Kata Shinobi and Rampart Aegis. Now for the time being, both of these bays are exclusive to this battle set, which is pretty neat. Now they are also both UX Infinity bays, so similar to Bullet Griffin, the ratchets are integrated into the blade, so you only get two parts here. But they do have some pretty interesting gimmicks. But let's have a full deep dive into both of these bays and their parts. So first off, we have the Kata Shinobi blade itself. So this is a UX Infinity Bay, so the ratchet is integrated into the blade. Now the ratchet is what the gimmick is with this blade, as it kind of spins, but not freely spin like on Silver Wolf. So basically it kind of has like little nub points, and it kind of soft locks into it, so you can actually kind of get two different modes out of it. So you can have like a 4-blade mode and an 8-blade mode. And it does perform pretty decently with these modes. Now, I will say probably the main problem with this bay, well, 2 problems to be, is that it is fairly light compared to, say, Bullet Griffin when you have it all combined, and that the ratchet itself can scrape on the stadium floor a bit if it does end up on a bit of a lean. But it does hit pretty hard, and I do see this having some potential, but probably not with the included bit. Maybe with some different attack type and even balance and stamina type bits. But still, pretty fun blade to mess around with. Now the bit that Kata Shinobi comes with is Low Flat, a pretty old bit. We first got this with Shark Edge, and has had a lot of releases since. Still a decent attack type bit, has definitely lost a lot of favor due to the introduction of Low Rush, but still can be useful from time to time. And the color it's in, I think, is pretty nice. With this combination of parts, it makes Kata Shinobi an attack type, but it will point out that the Kata Shinobi blade is marketed as a balance type blade. But even still, I think this is a really cool blade and probably my favorite out of the 2. But let's now focus on the second blade that we get in this battle set. And that second bay being Rampart Aegis. So we'll start off with the Rampart Aegis blade itself. So similar to Kata Shinobi, it is a UX Infinity Bay, so the ratchet is integrated into the blade. And this is a defense type blade. Now the gimmick for Rampart Aegis is pretty identical to Leon Crest. So there's a thick layer of plastic that matches up with the metal. So this is kind of hopefully meant to deflect attacks and just really be good on endurance. Now, I will say it can do it pretty well, but the main problem with this is that it is very light, mainly due to how much plastic there is. Now, I don't think the problem is with really how big the plastic ratchet is. I think it does work pretty well, but it's just the light weight of the blade. Like, it is just way too light, and not to mention its small profile doesn't really help with it either. It can get knocked around pretty easily, especially if you're using stamina type bits. But it can do decently against certain opponents, mainly blades that are in the same weight tiers as the blade. But if you are going up against, say, a Shark Scale or even a Wizard Rod, yeah, you are gonna struggle. But it does still look really cool. That's probably one thing it has going for it, but if you really want to use this kind of ability, you're better off using Leon Crest. It's a lot heavier and honestly probably a little bit more decent. Now the bit that Rampart Aegis comes with is Gear Ball. Not a new bit, we first got this with Wyvern Gale. Not the best bit to include, plus they have been reprinting this bit a little bit now. I'm not too sure why so many reprints lately. If you really are wanting to use a ball bit, you're better off using, say, the standard ball, free ball, even disc ball in certain situations. But Gear Ball can be decent at times, but it's just not the best ball bit out right now. With this combination of parts, it makes Rampart Aegis a stamina type, but keep in mind the blade itself is marketed as a defense type blade. But let's now head over to the scales and weigh up both bays and both of their bits and see how much they all weigh. Alright, let's now do some weights for the 2 UX Infinity Bays we get in this battle set. So we'll start off with Kata Shinobi. So Low Flat, that weighs 2.13 grams. And then the Kata Shinobi Blade, this one weighs 37.28 grams. Now, on paper, that's not a bad weight, but when you factor in that the ratchet is integrated into the blade, this does make its weight around the low 30s, which isn't amazing with, like, when you compare it to some of the bays that are coming out right now. But we'll put the bit in. So altogether, this combo weighs 39.42. So now for Rampart Aegis, so Gear Ball weighs 2.02, and then the Rampart Aegis Blade, this one weighs 32.88. So yeah, when you factor in the ratchet, this does put this bay's weight around the high 20s, which isn't great. But we'll put the bid in. Oh, there we go. Jeez, that was tight for some reason. So altogether, Rampant Aegis weighs 34.97. So yeah, Aegis is definitely the offender for the worst weight out of the two. Shinobi's not bad, but it is fairly light. Now, granted, I don't know if this is going to be how UX Infinity is going to go for here on out, but we'll have to wait and see. But let's now head out to the new stadium and give these guys some test spins and some test battles. Alright, now we're going to do some test spins and some test battles with both Kata Shinobi and Rampant Aegis, along with the new Sneak Attack Stadium. So we're going to do some battles with these two bays in the stadium first, and then I'm going to swap it over to a standard TT stadium so we can see how these bays perform in a standard bay stadium. But we'll start off with Kata Shinobi. So you can see that it doesn't always trigger the exit zone when it does a dash, so he does dash a few times sometimes, which is honestly pretty cool. And of course the reset, just push it down. I think that's what I really like about the stadium, is that it's a simple gimmick that works really well. You don't need batteries, and it's just a little bit of fun. But I mean, like, at least with Kata Shinobi, at least in the stadium, it is a little bit stable. Granted, that's probably it just being on low flat. But I'll admit, I do like the way the stadium performs. Now let's do Rampant Aegis. Now being on Gear Ball, just stay more relatively in the center. But the battle zone, there is definitely that rim on it, similar to the drop attack, so most of your bays are going to stay confined in this area. Oh, that's a lot of rattle from the pit. Oh, whoa, that is a lot of wobble. I think that's just because of how much plastic is in it. But I still think this stadium will be pretty fun. Probably not as fun as maybe compared to the original Hasbro Extreme and the Drop Attack, but I think this will still be a lot of fun to play with. But let's now try out both of these bays in some test spins and some test battles in this new stadium, and then we'll swap over to the regular stadium. Alright, let's now do some tests with both of these two bays in a standard stadium. So I should have these up first. So, been on more flat. As you expect. Low flat. And then Rampant Aegis. Of course being on Gear Ball. Just performing as you expect from the bay on your wall. But let's now do some more testing against some more opponents. Alright, for Cutter Shinobi, for the rest of the video, I have swapped it to Rush, just so we can see what this blade can do when it has a bit that has a bit more stamina compared to low flat. Just went out the top. That's what I thought. If Aegis was maybe like a gram or two heavier, it might be able to tie up a bit better with Rod. Maybe if you pair it up with a bit more of a heavier bit, it might be able to maybe at least beat it on spin. Alright, for the rest of the video, Rampart Aegis is going to be on Hexa. I want to see how it does on a bit more of a balanced type bit, and especially one with a little bit more burst resistance. So that is it for my look at the Sneak Attack battle set. I think this is a really fun battle set. You get some really nice fun bays. I think they are done pretty well. Well, one of them at least. And the stadium itself is pretty fun, even though it is pretty basic in its gimmick. But I'm going to break it down with both of the bays and the stadium and give you my final thoughts one by one. Starting with Kata Shinobi, I think Kata Shinobi is the best aspect of this set. It's actually honestly really nice to see a Shinobi Bay actually be pretty decent. Definitely a lot better compared to Shinobi Shadow and Shinobi Knife. Now, it isn't still the best. I do feel like the ratchet scraping the stadium floor can be a bit of a problem. But if you're using something like Rush or even some balance type bits, I think you should be pretty fine. But don't expect anything meta changing. But if you're after a bit of variety, this blade definitely can provide it, and it does it pretty well. And gotta say, the motif looks awesome. I do believe this will become Shinobi Shuriken by Takara, but I'm not 100% sure. But considering that it kind of looks like a Shuriken, this is most likely going to be Shinobi Shuriken that will probably come out at some point in the future. Now for Rampart Aegis, it is not the best. What really lets this bay down is definitely its weight. It is way too light for it to be useful. Now I do kind of get why they made it light, mainly just because it's round profile, and if they made it super heavy, it'll pretty much be unbeatable. But they could have at least made it hit 35 grams, at least. It's just way too light, and it's just way too small as well. That's what really kills it. Like, I will say, in certain tier groups, and like in certain stadiums, like if it's in the smaller stadiums that Hasbro's done, it should do decently. But if you plan to use this in, say, a TT stadium, you are going to struggle quite a bit. Like, if you really want this gimmick and you want something that is somewhat competitively viable, you're better off using Leon Crest. Motif of the blade looks cool, but practicality, definitely the weakest aspect. Now as for the Sneak Attack Stadium, it's pretty decent. The gimmick itself works fine, and it just doesn't malfunction or anything, but it's nothing too crazy. I mean, the sneak attack aspect I think is pretty fun, and honestly it can be a little bit entertaining, but again, it's just a simple gimmick and it just works. There's not much I can really say. Honestly, if you are just after something that is very gimmicky and just fun, maybe the Double Extreme might be a bit more of a viable option. But even still, this is a fun little stadium set, and if you are getting into Beyblade X, I think this will be a nice starting option for you if you can't get your hands on, say, the original Extreme Battle set. So my final thoughts on the battle set, I would say, are pretty decent. It's not my favorite out of the 3 they've released so far, but I will say, at least Kata Shinobi and Rampart Aegis to a degree definitely do make it entertaining, and the stadium itself works pretty well, even though it is pretty basic. But I can recommend this to you if you are getting into Beyblade X or you're just really wanting the bays. But you could maybe potentially wait for a sale. Granted, in this day and age with how things are going, waiting a sale could come at not getting it. But I would say pick it up if you fancy it. If you don't fancy it, you can skip it and maybe potentially getting these bays from Takara. But that's just my opinion. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please do check out all my friends' other channels in the links in the description below. So until then, I'll see you all in the next video.